In ancient times, the walnut oil was prized as a drying oil for paint, and Michelangelo even used it to paint the Sistine Chapel. And they're good for creating tasty treats, but researchers have found evidence that adding walnuts to our diet can decrease cholesterol levels. And a new study indicates that they can be powerful foods in the fight against heart disease. We talked with Dr. Penny Chris Etherton, a distinguished Penn State professor of nutrition, about the findings of her study on walnuts, cholesterol, and cardiac inflammation.
Well, I'm very excited to talk about the walnut study that we just published. It was a study designed to look at the effects of walnut and walnut products on risk factors for heart disease, both established risk factors like cholesterol levels, triglyceride levels, and emerging risk factors, new risk factors like markers of inflammation and adhesion molecules. Well, we fed subjects at high risk for heart disease about 1 ounce of walnuts per day and about 1 tablespoon of walnut oil. And after about a 6-week period of eating a healthy diet that included walnuts and walnut oil, we saw decreases in all major risk factors for heart disease and some of the new ones as well.
How much walnut is necessary to see the benefits you're talking about?
Well, we fed our subjects about 1 ounce of walnuts a day and then about 1 tablespoon of walnut oil. And 1 ounce of walnuts is the equivalent to the amount that you can hold in about the palm of your hand. So it's not huge amounts to elicit really big effects on risk for heart disease.
Part of the benefits were a favorable effect on cholesterol levels and a decrease in C-reactive protein. Explain what the significance of that is.
Well, C-reactive protein is a marker of inflammation. And what we know is that people who are inflamed inside their bodies are at risk for developing heart disease because their arteries are very susceptible to taking up different cells and starting the process of heart disease and atherosclerosis, lipid and fat deposition in the artery wall. So that seeing a decrease in this marker of inflammation is very significant.
Are nuts created equal? In other words, is there something special about the walnut that you might not find in almonds, for example?
Well, walnuts are high in omega-3 fatty acids, unlike most other nuts. So that's the uniqueness of walnuts. Nuts in general, are high in unsaturated fats, and unsaturated fats are good fats. Some are higher in monounsaturated fats. And some are higher in polyunsaturated fats. But the unique attribute of walnuts is that they're high in polyunsaturated fats and omega-3 fatty acids.
Are you at a point where you would make recommendations to consumers? For example, should you replace your vegetable oil now with walnut oil?
Well, in terms of good fats, I like to tell consumers to use a variety of oil, liquid vegetable oils. People have heard so much about olive oil. Yes, olive oil is a good oil to use, but in addition, there are a lot of other oils as well, like canola oil, soybean oil, and walnut oil. Some of these new designer type oils, I think, would be very useful to incorporate in the diet. Of course, in moderation.
Moderation is the key here because all nuts are pretty high in calories.
Absolutely. 1 ounce of all nuts has between about 160 and 180 calories. So you just can't overdo it, but rather you really have to eat a controlled portion.
Now, your study included 20 men and 3 women with an average age of about 50.
Yes.
I was a little surprised by your subjects because, according to the American Heart Association, women tend to have, a higher percentage of women tend to have cholesterol issues, a higher percentage than do men.
Yeah. Well, we were looking for subjects with certain criteria. And when we started this study a couple of years ago, we wanted women who weren't on hormone replacement therapy. And so now if we were conducting the study, I think it'd be a lot easier to find those women.
Okay, and so in addition, though, to having a positive impact on cholesterol, walnuts are also high in fiber. They also have omega-3, you said fatty acids. It's also an antioxidant. Could you explain what the significance of an antioxidant is?
Well, we know that oxidative stress plays a key role in heart disease, and so that an antioxidant protects the LDL particle from becoming oxidized. And when it's oxidized, it creates this whole process of heart disease and atherosclerosis. So antioxidants are good in that they help protect against oxidative stress.
And is there any information to determine whether the walnuts are perhaps better than the oil, and is walnut oil better than flaxseed oil, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Well, I think that with walnuts, you get a food that you can chew, and a lot of people like that. In addition, you get the fiber and a little bit of protein that you don't get in the oil. But, you know, you don't always use walnuts exclusive of an oil like on a salad. And so it's nice to include a little bit of walnut oil in a salad as well.
You mentioned salads, and I think most people think of walnuts as something that you put in cookies, not much else.
That's right. Well, you know, when we were serving our subjects the meals that we prepared, we put walnuts in oatmeal and cereal, and then salads and vegetables, and then even sprinkle them on fruit for dessert. They're delicious.
Okay, and healthful. Thanks so much for talking with us.
You're welcome.
A copy of the program you've just seen can be purchased through Penn State Media Sales at mediasales.psu.edu or by calling 800-770-2111.